Vegas Vacation, YouTube, and Union Carbide are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is February 14th, 2023. It is the 45th day of the year. There are 320 days left in 2023. I cannot believe we're already 45 days. That's 6 weeks into the year. Surprising how fast it goes. You know, considering how slow 2021 went with the whole COVID thing, I think most of our years, now that we're pretty much out of that, are gonna go by a lot faster. You'd think during 2021, with all that time at home, I would have done things around the house, or nah, I didn't do anything. No projects completed. Anyway, today is the 7th Tuesday in the 7th week and the 56th day of winter. We got 34 days left until spring. If today's your birthday, your birthstone is an amethyst. Today is Valentine's Day. I'd get all into it, but we did that last year, so we're gonna do something else for today. Today is actually Ferris wheel day. A lot of Valentines had taken place on Ferris wheels back in the old days of carnivals. Actually, I don't think that is. That seems like, typical old movie where, a young couple gets on the Ferris wheel, has their first kiss and all that. But considering Valentine's is in February, it's kind of cold for carnivals, I think. I myself have never kissed a girl on a Ferris wheel, or a man. I've never kissed a man, period, but definitely not on a Ferris wheel. Think I'm gonna have to talk my wife into that, or some random female stranger at a carnival, I guess. Not sure how my wife would take that, but hey, it's worth a try. But on February 14th, we observe National Ferris Wheel Day. The holiday honors the birth of George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. Yeah, that's what it's named after, a man whose last name is Ferris. He's the man that invented the Ferris wheel. Up until right now, I always kind of thought it was because, like at a fair, a county fair or something like that, even though it's spelt totally different. So this is how it came to be. Preparations for the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition began in earnest in 1891. Director of Works of the fair, Daniel H. Burnham, laid out a challenge: create a centerpiece to the show that will rival the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Erected the year before, the Eiffel Tower quickly became a world attraction. Ideas were tossed about, plans presented, and plans rejected. George Washington Gale Ferris was inspired. He contemplated several ideas, but it wasn't until he was in Chicago one day at a chop house and actually had the idea and sketched out the design on a napkin. When he gave the concept to Burnham, it was originally rejected because they doubted it could safely carry people to such heights. Ferris persisted, spending $25,000 of his own money. Now back then, that's a lot of money. That was around $800,000 in today's money. He paid for the safety studies and obtained engineers and got another $600,000 from investors. Now, this wasn't your typical carnival Ferris wheel that we see today that's maybe like 5 stories high. This was a 250-foot diameter wheel and hoisted up between two 140-foot twin towers. This colossal structure was 26 stories tall and in total cost $726,000 to create. That would be over $20 million in today's money. Now, that's not where the drama ended. Despite the wheel's success, Ferris struggled after the fair. Lawsuits over who actually owned this Ferris wheel bankrupted him. His wife left him, and in 1896, a few short years after the fair, he died at the age of 37 from typhoid fever. Kind of depressing. All right, let's see what else February 14th has given us. 1778, the United States flag is formally recognized by a foreign naval vessel for the first time. A French admiral renders 9-gun salute to the USS Ranger, commanded by John Paul Jones. 1855, Texas is linked by telegraph to the rest of the United States with the completion of the connection between New Orleans and Marshall, Texas. 1903, the United States Department of Commerce and Labor is established. Later, it splits off into the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor, 2 different organizations, which I get a lot of my stats from both those departments when I'm doing videos on my other channel. 1945, President Franklin D. Roosevelt meets King Ibn Saud of Saudi Arabia aboard the USS Quincy, officially beginning the U.S.-Saudi diplomatic relations. 1989, Union Carbide agrees to pay $470 million to the Indian government for damages caused in the 1984 Bhopal disaster. Now, this was a fiasco and a tragedy. Almost 40 years ago, on the night of December 2nd, 1984, plumes of toxic gas floated into the slums next to an American pesticide plant in Bhopal, India. So what happened was water entered a tank that had what could potentially be a poisonous gas. This created an uncontrollable leak. By morning, the scene was horrific. In the neighborhood of 5,000 people had died, some grasping for air and wandering out into the street, and dying all along the streets and little sidewalks they had there and the alleyways. Now, they say it's 5,000, but a lot of people estimate that due to illnesses within the next few years, it could have been up to 25,000 people died because of this chemical accident. As you can imagine, there was a lot of lawsuits, including the one where Union Carbide had to pay $470 million. In the case, they found that the chemical plant was operating under safety standards. Union Carbide said no, they think it was sabotage. That was never proven in court. When the then CEO, Warren Anderson, flew to India to kind of see what was going on, they arrested him on charges of manslaughter. Now, he was given bail and he promptly flew back to the United States, and he was eventually declared a fugitive from justice for failing to appear at a hearing. The United States declined to extradite him, citing lack of evidence. Now, along with all the people that had died and the different medical things, they had a lot of birth defects in the area years after the disaster. 2005, YouTube is launched by a group of college students, eventually becoming the largest video sharing website in the world and a main source of viral videos. Originally, they were trying to make a dating website. Sort of like you upload a video of yourself talking about who you are and what you'd like to meet, and, people might like it or dislike it or maybe contact you. Well, that plan went down in flames. So they were at a dinner party and they noticed everyone was sharing different videos they had been emailed. Back in the day, that's how we saw viral videos. People would email them to each other. And they thought that would be a great idea since this dating thing isn't working out. How about we just have a place where everyone can upload their videos and all these viral videos will be shared? The inspiration for it was from the halftime show of the Super Bowl with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, where she briefly was exposed. They had a malfunction with her wardrobe, and people had been sharing that millions and millions of times. On October 9th, 2006, Google announced that it had acquired YouTube for $1.65 billion in Google stock. Movies released on February 14th, 1997, Vegas Vacation. In my opinion, probably better than the original and definitely better than European Vacation. Christmas Vacation was phenomenal, but this is probably the second best of the Vacation movies. It was the fourth installment of the Vacation franchise, which sees the Griswold family try to survive a trip to Las Vegas. It was the first theatrical vacation film that did not carry the National Lampoon label or a screenwriting credit for John Hughes. Such a great movie. Born on February 14th, 1929, Vic Morrow, star of the television show Combat, who was accidentally killed when a stunt helicopter crashed into him during the filming of Twilight Zone the movie. I remember when that happened. It was horrible. He was actually holding two kids when it happened for a scene where he was in Vietnam, supposedly. Vic Morrow dropped out of high school to join the Navy at age 17. Blackboard Jungle was his first movie. He married Barbara Turner in 1957, and they had two children, one of which is actress Jennifer Jason Leigh. Died on February 14th, 1779, James Cook, British explorer who mapped the South Pacific, including Australia's eastern coastline and Hawaii. He also completed the first recorded expedition around New Zealand. He spent 3 years in a merchant navy apprenticeship studying mathematics and astronomy. His life ended when he attempted a second voyage to Hawaii. He was killed by the locals. They had run into some problems with the locals on their second visit, and they decided the best way to fix things was to kidnap the king. So Captain Cook, James Cook, ordered the capture of the king. So they marched through this village, grabbed the king, were kind of forcing him to go, but as they were taking him away, one of the villagers struck him in the head with a club. When he fell down, a bunch of them stabbed him, left him there in the surf. Now there's a lot more that goes into that, but that's just kind of the, in a nutshell version. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget to subscribe if you already haven't. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.